Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we have a large agenda, a long agenda. I'd like to call the meeting Planning and Zoning for February 8th to order, please. The first thing I'd like to do is ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Board Secretary, could you read the roll, please?
Chairwoman Spidell.
Yes, ma'am.
Vice Chairman Richardson.
Here.
Secretary Grant.
Here.
Member Perez.
Here.
Member Aton.
Here.
School Board Member Gilbert.
Here. Thank you so much. I'd like approval of the minutes, please, from the last meeting. Do I have a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passing. Are there any adjustments or additions or corrections to the minutes? Excuse me. None? Thank you. Council, can you slowly read the procedures for the meeting?
Yes, ma'am, I'd be happy to. There are several quasi-judicial items on the agenda today, and the notice on the front of your agenda reads, all persons who anticipate speaking on any public hearing item must fill out an oath card to be heard on that agenda item and sign the oath contained thereon. These cards are located on the table near the entrance to the council chamber or may be obtained from the recording secretary. This meeting will be conducted in accordance to the procedures adopted in Resolution Number 24-1997. Those speaking in favor of a request will be heard first. Those opposed will be heard second. And those who wish to make a public comment on the item will speak third. The applicant may make a brief rebuttal if necessary. A representative from either side, for or against, may cross-examine a witness. Anyone who speaks is considered a witness. If you have photographs, sketches, or documents that you desire for the commission to consider, they must be submitted into evidence and will be retained by the city. Please submit such exhibits to the recording secretary.
Thank you very much. Going to the agenda, let's look at item 9A, conditional use permit.
Madam Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask Eddie or Brad to tell us about any adjustments that may need to be made to the agenda.
Sure. So the items on your agenda tonight, items 9E, that's the Sisson Road Townhome Sketch Plat, 9F, Falcons Roost Sketch Plat, 9G, Verona Village B Final Plat.
Eddie, we only have letters. We don't have,
Yeah.
our screen has numbers, but
Oh.
the audience's agenda only has letters. So could you refer to these letters, please?
Sure. E, F, and G.
E is in excellent,
Excellent,
S
fantastic,
is in-
and great.
later, and G is in great.
And as I understand, C is suggested for next meeting, right?
Correct. So item 9C is Small Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment Number 9, 2022, Wealth Hospitality. There was an administrative error with the legal advertising, so we're going to re-advertise that item and have it come before you at the next meeting.
That side item for hotel, in the Helen Hauser Boulevard, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. And if I plow on and forget that, please stop me. Thank you. We're also postponing or tabling item number H at the election of officers for our next meeting.
If you'd like to table that item, you'll have to make a motion on that. You can do that when you get to that item.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Proceeding. Staff, 9A.
Well, Chairwoman, if you are considering readjusting the schedule on the agenda here,
Yes, sir.
the staff would recommend moving items E, F, and G to the beginning of the agenda, just because those are items that are going to be heard for a final decision by City Council at their next meeting on February 14th.
Thank you.
Sure.
I wasn't clear on that. Okay, thank you very much. Item E. Staff.
Item 9E, Sisson Road Townhomes. Sisson Road Townhomes is a proposed 91 townhome lot subdivision on
I'm
approximately.
having trouble hearing you. Is it me?
Let me get a
Or
little
are you
closer.
just being
Being a little shy.
gently presenting the agenda? Okay,
How about now?
that sounds good.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Sisson Road Townhomes is a proposed 91 townhome lot subdivision on approximately 15.2 acres located north of Timber Trace Apartments along Sisson Road. On April 26, 2022, the City Council approved a small-scale amendment with rezoning to utilize one zoning development standard for the 91-unit townhome project. The approval changed the western portion of the 15-acre property from medium-density residential future land use to high-density residential and rezoned the same portion of the property from the multifamily medium-density residential R2 zoning to multifamily high-density residential R3. Below are the criteria for approval for a sketch plat. And on page 455 of 508, there's a couple notes. We wanted to point out the triangles and the clouding that you see on the sketch plat is representative of changes or edits that have been made between revisions. So that's not to demonstrate any type of feature that's proposed. And then the last sentence above alternatives states the sketch plat is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, land development regulations, and sketch plat requirements described in Chapter 34, Article 3, Division 5, Subdivision 1 of the Code. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Do any commissioners have any questions concerning the evidence being presented? Seeing none, what cards do we have on this item?
We don't have any cards for this item.
Okay, moving on. Staff, do you want to clarify anything? And are any of the maps that you've just passed out, are those for,
No, ma'am. So we do have a couple sheets printed out on a larger format in case you're having a hard time seeing the proposed lot sketch plat, as well as the well radii, since this property is within the area of critical concern. So we'll have Brad pass those out. Thank you, Brad.
do any commissioners, would you like to see maps for people who didn't bring their reading glasses?
Those maps
Okay,
aren't those.
Thank you, sir.
These are those.
okay, do you need one of these? Then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
Um,
Mr. Richard, Vice Chair Richardson?
I remember when we talked about this when it came up before. And my main concern is that Sisson Road is a county road, but yet with this development, along with others, we're going to be dumping a lot of traffic on the Sisson Road. Does the county have any plans to widen Sisson Road at this point? And the city limits will come up on Sisson Road and the city widen their part.
We're not aware of any plans to widen that road by the county, which is a county-maintained road.
Has there been a traffic study done, sir?
One second.
Yes, no? Did I ask that?
We had
I
looked
believe
at
the
it
answer is yes. I'm looking for it to
and
see if we have
approved
it
the
in the agenda.
rezoning, but we stated that there's going to be a dumping of traffic on Sisson Road. And you've got the crossing guard at, is it Wendy Lee in Sisson for the Imperial Estates Elementary? So I'm very concerned about traffic, but I just want to bring that up.
On page 455 of your packet, the applicant has provided a traffic study that has been reviewed by staff. And the study determined that the proposed development will generate, an X number of trips. The analysis of existing conditions indicates that the adjacent roadway segment and the study intersections currently operate at a satisfactory level of service standards. And the analysis of projected traffic conditions revealed that the adjacent roadway segment, study intersections, and the site access driveway will not be deficient in traffic capacity. So if you see on page 455 of your packet, you'll see the rest of that, the statements.
Ms. Gilbert, since this is within school zoning, what questions might you have of staff from the information they've presented? This is a large development.
Yeah. Do we have a concurrent, did they fill out a concurrency plan? I didn't see that. Is there a concurrency plan, a school concurrency filled out?
So this, when it went through the land use amendment, there was a preliminary concurrency that was completed. I don't believe, and I recall that there was a concurrency issue or capacity as opposed to this development. But this is going through a site plan process right now, and we'll have to go through that formal concurrency with the school district, which has not been completed yet. So at this stage, this is just a conceptual or sketch plat to you to see if the layout was appropriate.
What other questions do I have? Okay, thank you, Member Gilbert. What other questions do I have from commissioners? Mr. Etan.
Getting better. Is there any, based on the traffic piece, it looks like, and it's hard to tell on the map, but that if the county did decide to widen Sisson, is there anything in the sketch plat that would need to be moved at some point if there was basically a necessary need to widen the right-of-way, or is there enough right-of-way typically already there that the county owns to widen that road?
Good question. So the right-of-way is very narrow, and so all the facilities that they propose, including the sidewalks, are on their property, not within the right-of-way, which is more typical. So in this case, if the county were to expand the right-of-way, they'd have to acquire the property from the property owner, and it's very likely that some of the facilities may need to be reconstructed outside the new right-of-way.
So since none of this has been constructed and it's pretty clear that at some point that road may need to be widened, does it make any sense to actually lay it out so that things aren't in a future right-of-way?
Well, right now,
At some point in the future.
the sidewalk path is not directly on the property boundary. I'm looking at page 463 of 508.
Yeah, it is, the one that seems to be the closest is whatever that, I guess, some kind of drainage thing or something in the top right corner.
The top right corner is a lift station, so that would
Okay.
be for sewer service. And typically, those have to be placed at the site, this portion of the site that has, for topography, for the pipes to drain to the lift station.
Okay, thank you.
Is construction in phases for this, Eddie?
I'm not aware of any phasing.
No.
They have, from what I understand, they have not proposed this to be divided in phases, no.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions or comments from commissioners? I'll call for a motion. To approve the sketch plat for item, I guess it's E now. Recommending approval of the sketch plat for the Sisson Road townhouses. Do I have a motion? Member Grant.
Madam Chairman, I recommend, I'll make a motion to approve the sketch plat for Citizen Road Townhouse.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Anton? Thank you, sir. Clerk, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Secretary Grant,
Yes.
Member Perez,
Yes.
Member Aton,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Richardson,
Yes.
Chairwoman Spidel.
Yes. The motion passes and will be sent to council. What's the date to be sent? Is this
February
one?
14th.
14th, this is the 14th, okay. And that issue will be sent to council on the 14th. Thank you very much. Moving to item F. So we're going to say 2F, please. And staff, will you present that, please? Falcon's Roost.
Falcon's Roost, item 9F, page 467 of 508. Falcon's Roost is a proposed 28-lot, single-family home subdivision on approximately 53 acres located north of Knox McRae Drive. The submittal requirements for the sketch plat are listed below. This sketch plat has come before you before and been approved. The sketch plat expired, and so this application may look familiar.
Member Richardson?
As I recall, there are no significant changes to what was presented before, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Are there any cards on this item, please?
No, ma'am.
What questions do commissioners have on this item? None? I see none. Any clarifications? We've seen this before. Member Richardson?
I would make a motion that would recommend approval for item 9F, Falcon's Roost sketch plat.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Clerk, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Secretary Grant,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Richardson,
Yes.
Member Perez,
Yes.
Member Aton,
Yes.
Chairwoman Spidel.
Yes, ma'am. Recommended sketch plat for Falcon's Roost goes to City Council on February 14th. Moving on to item 3G. Is it Verona? Is that,
Correct. Verona Village B.
okay, and it's Village B final plat. It's approval of the final plat and second supplement. Staff, please.
Yes, ma'am. This item begins on page 482 of 508.
482.
482.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Verona Village B is a proposed 173-lot, single-family subdivision on approximately 117.06 acres located west of Willow Creek Boulevard and north of Verona Phase 1 subdivision. The overall Verona development, formerly known as Willow Creek, consists of 675 plus or minus acres. In 2016, the remaining portion of the development, excluding Phase 1, was rezoned to the Planned Unit Development Zoning, PUDZ, to allow for an additional 1,277 residential units and 172 acres of commercial and light industrial use. The following are attached and required approval: final plat, second supplement to covenants for Verona Master Subdivision, performance bonds for required infrastructure and sidewalks. The final plat is consistent with the comprehensive plan, the preliminary plat, and final plat requirements as described in the code. Staff has reviewed the final plat for consistency with the approved master plan, comprehensive plan, land development regulations, and recommends approval. Staff has also reviewed the covenants and performance bonds and recommends acceptance.
Do we have any cards on this item?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Looking over the documentation, what questions or comments do I have from commissioners, please? Have we seen this before, Eddie?
Yeah.
You have seen the sketch plat, so you've seen it in a preliminary form, and this is the final plat. So again, the platting process, sketch plat is a concept drawing, then it goes to preliminary plat, which is the site development permit for construction, and then the final plat is the last portion where we accept the infrastructure and close out the subdivision.
And this will be heard by council again on the 14th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Comments, Member Richardson?
Once again, are there any significant changes since we last saw this?
I don't believe so.
I can't find any.
Right, in this, what you would see different, if anything, is more information, but any significant changes we would have highlighted.
What comments or questions do we have from other commissioners? Seeing none, call for a motion on item 3G is in Great Verona Village B final plat. Member Aton,
I move to approve Verona Village B final plat and the additional supplements as presented.
thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Any discussion by commissioners? Roll call vote, please. Clerk?
Member Aton,
Yes.
Secretary Grant,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Richardson.
Yes.
Member Perez.
Yes.
Chairwoman Spidel.
Yes, ma'am. Passing unanimously will be heard by council on the 14th of this month. Okay, help me, staff. Where do I go now? I'm at G. I know my alphabet, but we missed this up on me, so
Thank you, yeah.
do we go back to A?
So we approved EF, or we've worked through EF and G, so you could start back with A, B, and D.
Okay, so if you're looking at the agenda, ladies and gentlemen, we're going back to A. Item conditional use permit for 1881 Knox McCrae Drive. Do we have that? All commissioners on the correct page? What page are we on?
10.
10? We went from, out of 500, we went back to 10? Okay, punch those in, please, thank you. Okay, I'm ready. Staff?
Thank you.
Oh, excuse me. I think I'm supposed to say, do you have any cards first? No, staff. No, staff first. Thank you.
The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit, CUP, to relocate the playground on an existing private school located at 1881 Knox McRae Drive. A CUP is required for schools in the Community Commercial Zoning District per Section 28-255. CUP number 1, 2017 was approved on the site to allow the school. The subject property contains 14.214 plus or minus acres and continues to be used as a school. The applicant is requesting to relocate the playground in order to accommodate a multifamily development on the western portion of the site under a separate application. The future land use designation on the portion of the property used for the school is commercial high intensity, and the zoning district is community commercial, CC. The conditions originally approved with CUP 1, 2017 will continue to govern the school use. Page number 23 of 508 is a concept plan that might make it easier to explain what is being requested. And that's a colorful graphic with the building in green and the property to the west in yellow. So on this concept plan, the existing school or the existing playground is in the area on the western portion in the yellow. That's just north of the existing retention area on the southwest corner of the site. The applicant is requesting to relocate the playground to where you see on the right-hand side of the page, which is the eastern portion of the property, where it shows proposed playground area as well as future playground areas. And the purpose of this request is to move the playground so that the remaining property to the west can be developed as a multifamily use, and that's the next item, item 9B, the small-scale amendment. Well, that's the entitlements for it, not the construction of it, I should say.
Repeat that, what you
Sure.
said.
So what I was referencing is item 9B is the small-scale comprehensive plan amendment.
Yes, sir.
Both of these applications are the same, subject to the same property. One is a condition, what we're hearing right now, this item is the conditional use permit is to relocate the playground. Once the playground is removed from the western portion of the property, the applicant is requesting a conditional, or excuse me, they're requesting a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to change the western portion of the property from commercial to residential to allow the development of a multifamily development. So again, we are currently on item 9A, which is the conditional use permit. And what's being requested is to relocate the playground from the western portion of the property to the eastern portion of the property. I will also add that with communication with the applicant today, we understand that the school is actually no longer in operation. There's a daycare and school, there is a daycare that is currently in operation. And so if this conditional use permit is approved, then the applicant will have 4 years to establish a school use consistent with the approved conditional use permit. However, we will need a new CUP application for a daycare, and the applicant has been made aware of that and intends to submit that. So again, the request tonight is for a conditional use permit for a school at this location. Right now, there's not one in operation, and there's not one proposed immediately.
Member Richardson.
Couple questions. You're telling me then that Legacy Academy no longer exists? I was surprised to hear that. I have some concerns about moving the playground that close to Barna. I understand the future playground they propose, but it's probably not big enough. The proposed playground, I don't know how close it is to Barna, but there's a drainage ditch. In the next neighborhood is Spring Valley, which I know significantly well. Because they've moved from the west side of it, I think that's the only place they can move it, right?
There may be opportunities for other locations. This is the area that was proposed. I will say that the code requires that the playground be no closer than 50 feet from any property that's zoned residential or that has a residential use on it. And this proposed location does meet that standard. This is a conditional use permit process, so if you feel that the use may need some additional buffering or other conditions that would make the use of the site more appropriate, such as along a collector road on Barna Avenue, and you wanted to request something to mitigate the potential impact there, you could recommend that. At this stage, we have not added any additional recommendations to the conditional use permit.
Part of my concern is you don't immediately go from indoor to outdoor to the playground. When I brought this concern up before involving the Grove and their playground, they told me there would be fencing that was, you couldn't see in to the playground, but I don't think they've ever done it. I just want to tell you my concern.
What's the age limit on this proposal, the school versus the daycare? Do you know, Eddie?
I don't. I'd have to ask the applicant if they have more information.
I will tell you, my concerns are also with the Grove Playground. It's such a narrow little strip of land with a bunch of plastic stuff and there is no visible, it's open fencing. If you had a little tiny child with a small head, I don't know, they'd be over there in the Winn-Dixie, I guess. I don't know. Member Aton.
So along those same lines, it's kind of unclear, and I guess maybe we need to consider putting these in the conditions if we move forward with this. Seems like there's a couple opportunities for health safety issues. One is on the collector road, unless there's something that a car losing control on that bottom right corner would take out a chain link fence and anything and anybody behind a chain link fence. And then two, there's no apparent fencing. Now I'm sure it probably would be there between the retention area and the playground area as well. So it seems like there definitely should be conditions that there's, protection around that as well. But my bigger concern is something more than just a fence along Barna.
Are these things, are those kinds of stipulations that Member Anton has pointed out, are those legislated through school development codes? And are we're talking about a private school? Okay, so is this attached to the charter network? No, it's just private. Okay. Do they have to follow specific regulations for school construction, safety, blah, blah, blah? Yes, no, maybe?
Whatever occupancy requirements of the Florida Building Code.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's going to address the concerns that we're hearing right now, as far as fencing and screening from
It just looks like
Barna.
kids are right next to the water. Is that what you're concerned about, Member Anton? That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think that's one concern, but that's fairly solvable with a lightweight fence. I'm concerned that a car running down Barna along the right side of the drawing here, which it's not real clear, but that's a road, is that if it loses control at that corner of the dotted line and where that meets Barna, pretty much anywhere along there, a car's traveling at whatever speed limit is there, 30, 35 mile an hour, assuming they're not speeding, is going to plow right through any fence, vinyl, wood, privacy, chain link, anything. So we're talking about needing, the kinds of things you see in front of shopping centers and grocery stores with the poured concrete pipes and something that's going to actually stop a moving, 2-ton vehicle.
Staff have a comment on that? No? These are little kids. Little kids in water, cars on the road.
Ms. Would you like to suggest, you do have the right to propose conditions to protect this area, or if you believe it's not appropriate, maybe suggest to the applicant to relocate this playground?
Do you see another place to relocate this playground?
Not without significant changes to the
I mean, right
site.
there on the water, it's right there on the road. This doesn't look good to me.
If we're looking for existing green space, no. But there could be an opportunity to redesign the site or reconstruct it in some way, some area to accommodate it.
Isn't there plenty of parking area there, or that the subject, does the developer need to buy the parking lot, lease parking lot space? I don't know.
The use is illustrating on this exhibit that their only need for parking is what's labeled or colored in green in the parking lot.
Can the developer take parking lot and make it into playground?
It's possible.
That's a possibility? Okay, if we propose some conditions here? Not specifically that, but that the developer look for more safety concerns?
You could recommend an alternative location for the playground.
Okay, period, and let them make a proposal on their own. Okay, Member Richardson.
Yes, looking at the drawing, page, whatever it is.
23.
23?
Yeah, 23. That wing, besides the Publix, is occupied by different businesses. So it's not an easy trip for kids to reach that proposed playground area. And having total familiarity with Spring Valley, because we moved there when I was 11 years old. There's a ditch on the north border of Autumn Drive that separates Autumn Drive from the back of the Publix. And I'm concerned that ditch, even though it's been piped, is pretty deep. And you've got the retention pond to the north. It seems to me that proposing the the playground in that area is the most dangerous area on the map.
Member Grant?
Eddie, what type of buffering does the city require for a situation like this? You must have ran into this before in the past. What kind of buffering is required?
Let me just pull up the standard. It's in our landscape yard section.
Okay, whatever.
So for example, if you're proposing a commercial development and you're adjacent to an existing single-family residential, it requires a type A buffer, which is a 10-foot wide buffer.
But we're not talking about a residence here. We're talking about Barner Avenue,
If you're against a public right-of-way, it's a type B buffer, 20 feet in width.
23.
20.
Does that answer your question, Member Grant?
No, it doesn't.
Okay. What other questions might you have?
Well, I'm not satisfied with that one, for one.
Okay. So let's move on to Mr. Aton.
Is the upper retention area really there, or is that also proposed?
I believe that is proposed. Look at the aerial.
Well, it's deep. It's not an active retention pond, but it is there.
It appears to be part of the stormwater system that was designed during the commercial plaza, the construction of the commercial plaza.
Okay, so it really is there, because if it wasn't there, I was saying, perhaps at the very end of the building, and then if you put the retention area between the road and the playground, at least you've got a big ditch there that's going to slow something down if it veers off of Barna. But if it's already there, that may not be an option.
I just have some questions about dropping off kiddies, having kiddies play next to a retention area and the roadway.
I will also add that the existing playground is adjacent to an existing retention area. These stormwater management facilities appear to be designed as dry retention ponds that may be full with water during high rain events, but that typically, on most days, are dry.
Eddie, do you have children?
No, ma'am.
Well, let me tell you what they do. They're just drawn to water, and they're drawn to danger. And although I'm not so hysterical that I'm concerned about everything moving down Barna Avenue, this is the stupidest place to put a playground for children I've ever seen. Because we are in the business of caring for children, not dropping off your child into what I propose as dangerous locations. Although that is up to the customers. I'm going to, Member Richardson, take over for me because I'm worried about the children.
Well, where the playground is currently is in that proposed multifamily area, which is some distance from the retention pond, but it's not close to Barna. In this case, it's a ways away from Knox McRae. And that is, to me, the ideal place for a playground. It's closer to the school inside the old Publix. But if the developer wants to use that property for multifamily, and he's taking part of the parking lot, is that correct?
The parking lot is existing.
Yeah, but the shaded tan, which is the part of the proposed multifamily.
Right, so what's shown in green in the parking area is showing the parking that's required for just the school use. So all the excess parking is parking for the other uses in the commercial plaza, as well as excess parking that either could be used by the multifamily use. It's more than what's required for the uses that are existing.
Did we have any cards?
No, sir.
I believe Sandra's here. Yes.
If anyone in the audience had wanted to speak on this item, you are supposed to fill out a card and hand it to the recording secretary. Okay.
Okay. Are there cards on this item? Yes, okay. Clerk, can you read the names, please? It might have gotten buried down there.
I'm sorry, I did find one. Lisa Henderson,
Ms. Henderson, would you like to approach the podium, please? Just give your full name and your address, please. And what item you're speaking on.
Sure, Lisa Henderson, 1890 Knox McRae. And I'm right across the street from this plaza. And if I look at
We
the-
are speaking only on the A part of this
Correct,
topic.
correct.
Okay, so you get your 3 minutes on the A part.
I'm looking at the map that you're looking at.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
you've got the whole plaza, and it's got proposed on it, student pickup. They're acting like this whole plaza is school, and it's not, first of all. There's businesses to the west side of the school, number one. Number two, it's got student pickup drop-off. They're coming in from all angles. There is no rhyme or reason as to how they're picking up, dropping off these students. Second. Third, there are young children. I see the employees in strollers, taking these students out in strollers. So now these employees, whether they're teachers, aides, I don't know what they are, they've got to take these children to this playground to the east now, whether it's behind the building, in front of the building. You've got, once again, your concerns. You've got the traffic. You've got loud sirens, and you've got infants, toddlers. These children are going to be scared second. So I totally agree. This is a horrible area. Traffic, accidents, even if you have an accident at the light, those cars could still come through a concrete wall into these children. So that's huge. As you said, I mean, I don't have any children here. I'm a grandmother. This concerns me greatly, just seeing those children having to walk to the playground that's to the east side, never mind to the west side, never mind to the east side of the property on Barna. There is no protection, no matter what you do. A concrete wall, these cars are gonna go through. So, and as far as, I'm sorry, we're just doing the playground. I apologize.
It's okay.
So,
Thank you very much.
that's all I have to say about it.
Thank you. Do commissioners have any further comments on this item? Any further questions on this item? Any other cards on this item?
no, ma'am.
Thank you. You want to keep these as two different votes, don't you? Okay, so looking at item 1A, remembering this is a quasi judicial item, City Council is meeting on the 28th on this. This is for the conditional use permit of Knox McRae Drive. I would like to add one question. If we put conditions on this, council, how do I do that?
You could ask any member of the commission to suggest any language that they would like to use as a condition for discussion now, or you could ask any member of the commission to make a motion with additional conditions, and then they could state those conditions.
Just
and
what
then-
she said. Member Richardson, I'm counting on you doing that.
I'm not going to make any conditions on the motion. I
Okay.
recommend we recommend denial of conditional use permit 7-2022.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chairman Richardson,
Yes.
Member Perez,
Yes.
Member Aton,
Yes.
Secretary Grant,
Yes.
Chairwoman Spidel.
Yes. This item will not go to council. Am I correct on this?
This will go to council. Your recommendation will go to them.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you. Okay, moving on to item 1B, the small-scale comprehensive plan amendment for this is the same parcel. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Staff.
This is page 69 of 508. 69 of 508.
69.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
The applicant, Damian Brink, on behalf of the property owner, Village Charter Holdings LLC owner, is requesting a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment with rezoning on approximately 3.795 acres for the purposes of constructing a 56-unit multifamily residential development west of the existing shopping plaza. The intent of the request is to change the future land use designation of a portion of the property from commercial high-intensity to high-density residential and rezone a portion of the property from community commercial, CC zoning, to the multifamily high-density residential R3 to allow the development of the western portion of the property into multifamily residential units. Findings: the comprehensive plan future land use amendment is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. The rezoning is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and the land development regulations, including rezoning criteria described in section 34-40 of the code. I will point the commission to pages 87 and 88. Those are the maps that we created showing the proposed change in the land use and zoning. The first map is on page 87, and that's the future land use. And you notice that present conditions, the entire subject property is shown in red, which is the is the commercial high intensity future land use. And on the right-hand side is the proposed request, which shows the western portion of the property changed to high-density residential, but the center and eastern portion of the properties remain in the commercial high-intensity. So again, on the left, the map shows the subject property is entirely red, commercial high-intensity, and on the right, if approved, the subject property would have high-density residential to the west. And
Thank
I'm
you,
happy to-
staff.
happy to
Are there
answer any
cards on this item?
Yes, ma'am. Lisa Henderson signed up for both.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Henderson, could you speak on item B, please?
Hello. Sorry. Once again, we have the school. We're going to have, they kind of contradict themselves. We're going to have more traffic. We've got 56 units going on Knox-McCrae. We've got a school right next door. We've got high traffic. We've got water runoff. We've already had the retention pond across on Knox-McCrae. We had that collapse on the sidewalk side, on the north side. That's fixed. I don't know if that's a Band-Aid or if they've actually fixed what happened, why it collapsed. So we're taking that woods or that parcel of property away. We're going to have much more water runoff. We're going to have much more traffic with a school right next door. So, what else did I want to say? We don't know if it's condos or if it's apartments. Look at the condition of the plaza that is the same owner as who wants to do the building. Do we know, is it condos? Is it apartments? What are they going to look like? Maybe great the first year or two, but if it's apartments, are they going to look like that plaza is looking? The developer has nobody in there that can rent or that wants to rent. What's happening? The plaza is a mess. That being said, the traffic is the most important thing, and the school, once again, for the children, with 56 units right next door to it. And they want the entrance to this 56-unit development to come right into the plaza. They've got 2 openings coming right into the plaza with the school right next door. So that's all I have to say on this. I don't think we should approve it. I don't think it's a good idea. Plus,
Can-
they have the playground right in the front.
Just a second, Ms. Henderson. Can staff answer, Ms. Henderson had several questions. Can staff answer those questions?
Sure.
One was whether it was apartments or
That question
Condos.
has come up. We received a number of requests from the public asking that question. I don't have that information. Maybe the applicant may be able to answer.
We have a representative here. I'm sorry,
it's okay.
but we do. I went to the meeting that we had at the Civic Center, and that's how I didn't get any answers,
Okay.
so.
Well, the request is for the change to the future land use. And
Correct.
so the future land use doesn't dictate whether these are rented or sold. It's just about whether the use of multifamily is appropriate here.
Thank you. Did you get your questions answered?
No, but that's okay.
Okay.
It was just basically, once again, we don't know if it's going to be condos or apartments, and the point is the condition of the plaza.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, is there any additional card? Is there an additional card?
I don't have one for the applicant up here, so. Sandra Zambano?
Can you state your name and address, please? Thank you.
Absolutely. My name is Sandra Zumpano, and I represent Bowman Consulting. My address,
Wait,
Sandra Zumpano,
it's okay.
and my
No,
address.
just wait.
Oh, sorry.
You got to speak slowly.
Got it.
I'm older.
You got it.
Yes, okay.
So my name is Sandra Zumpano. Address is 1560 Lakeview Circle, Coral Springs, Florida 33071. I am representing the applicant in this developer, and I wanted to answer that question. Yes, these are going to be apartments that are going to be marketed at market value, and the owner of the plaza has all of the intentions to make better modifications to the plaza, but they want to start with the proposed multifamily that we are hearing tonight. So I wanted to answer that question for.
Commissioners, what questions do we have? Mr. Richardson?
Well, I don't know if what I'm going to say is completely correct or not, but I think the applicant has to decide, do they want to be a plaza or do they want to be apartments or a combination, and present us with something that shows a combination, not just nilly-willy, a daycare on one part of the property and apartments on the other.
Member Aizon?
This is probably more for staff. So since the school is not active, the conditional use permit that was approved to put the school there, how long does it take before it expires? And if another school wants to use the same spot, is that a different conditional use permit, or is there a period of time that they can come in under the old conditional use permit?
I believe it's 2 years for if the use were to expire, or if the use were to discontinue, how long the CUP would expire from that date. 6 months? Yeah, I'm just going to verify that. But so Brad's saying it's 6 months.
Because I agree with Member Richardson that, it appears the school's the bigger issue here. I mean, the nature of retail and shopping centers is changing. We've seen a lot of blighted ones, vacated by grocery stores, and I'm all about, cleaning up the blight, and we certainly need, more affordable housing, and the HDR is consistent with all of the property around it, except for the fact that there's a school in the plaza. I'd probably be a lot more open to the entire property changing to HDR than, mixing, especially with the conditional use permit in place that could put a school back in there, even though there's not one active right now.
And just to confirm, it is 6 consecutive months is when the conditional use permit will expire.
And this may be for the applicant. Do we know how long the current school has not been active?
I don't have that information right now.
So the 6-month clock had started ticking at some point before now. We just don't know how long. How does the city monitor that?
Through the licensing, the business licensing.
So the 6-month clock doesn't really start ticking until their license expires, even though the school's not active?
So when a use is no longer active, there are many ways that we determine that. There isn't a one answer to that, to be honest. So the business license or the BTR expires, and then that's the main when it comes to a business. So, but we also look at other things that might be going on in that property, depending on what's required of that conditional use permit.
If the applicant chose to, is there a way they can deactivate the conditional use permit so that at such point that the use of the shopping center or this portion changes, that anything coming back into that space would have to come back to us?
I'm just a little confused because what we're talking about is an agenda item that was prior to this. And I want to be careful that we're not making decisions on this particular agenda item based on something.
Actually not.
Okay.
We're not concerned about moving the playground.
Okay.
We're concerned about the fact that we're taking a part of the property that includes a school under a conditional use permit and taking part of that property and turning it into high-density residential. So it's the use of the other part of this property, and frankly, a little bit of the use of the part that we're changing, even though it's mostly forested, but the fact that they're taking some of the parking lot and they're moving high-density residential closer to the school that's on the same property, that's the part I'm concerned about. It's not the playground. I think the playground, if they've got to move it, they got to move it, and it's up to them to find a place to move it to.
Well, this agenda item has two items for you to consider: the legislative portion, which is policy making, and then the quasi-judicial portion. The first part you need to answer first is that's a legislative. This is a good policy to have this land use there. It's a good policy to have this residential use there. And so then you're only really comparing that land use to adjacent land use categories and seeing if that's appropriate there, not the specific use that's going on, whether there's a school there that expired adjacent to them in that plaza. Because in that zoning district, or I'm sorry, in that land use category that's currently community commercial or commercial high intensity, where the shopping plaza is, it has a lot of entitlements of all types of uses that are encumbered in there. So, again, I just want to make sure you evaluate this land use decision, this land use request, based on whether that category and all its entitlements are appropriate there next to this other land use category and its entitlements as well, and not specific to any particular business or use.
So then, assuming the land use is okay because there's high-density residential adjacent to the property already, any residential building, site plan, sketch plat, all of those, as it relates to how it interacts with this piece of property, when something actually gets built there, will that come back to us or not?
If the land use is approved on this segment of this property and the rezoning is also approved, and they go forward with a development or use that is permitted within that zoning district, that might not necessarily require a public hearing, that would not come back to you. If they decide to subdivide the property, that's a sketch plat, that's our plat process, that would have to come back to you as a concept. So in some cases, these uses do not come back to you. So the question to you really right now is this a good policy to have this new residential land use there as opposed to the current land use? And then your next question is the zoning.
So they could build this on a split land use and a split zoning without subdividing the property?
Subdividing is a site plan, as a development permit process later on. Right now, I mean, you can have properties with several land use categories on them, on one parcel. That happens all the time. What the question is to you tonight is this land use category appropriate there, regardless of whether other requirements are necessary in order to get any kind of development approved, such as platting, subdividing, or permits?
Okay. This might be stupid, but just clarify it, okay? So we have a large Publix unused shopping center with some defunct businesses in it, a medical center to the east side, Isn't that correct?
You asking me to confirm whether those
Yes,
businesses are
yeah.
defunct, ma'am?
Yeah.
or-
Well,
I-
I know some of them are. Yeah, I think, I think the flooring store is moved. There's other stuff that's moved, right? Okay, then there's a Chinese restaurant that may be still there. Okay, and then the largest portion of this property is the public shopping center, correct? The public store, right?
Yeah, that's the largest building on the property.
Well, it's the largest part of that development, okay. And now we want to change the zoning from commercial high to commercial high intensity, correct? Or we want to high intensity residential land use. Now, where are the children going from this playground? I know that this is two separate things, but are the babies still going to be there?
Maybe I can help clarify.
Okay,
So the future land use on the property, the entire subject property is commercial high intensity.
correct.
After, if the request were to be approved, what the land use would look like on the subject property is the portion with the existing building, the public shopping plaza, the whole strip, would remain in the commercial high intensity future land use.
Yes,
The portion of the property to the west that is currently undeveloped, outside of some previous infrastructure that had been installed with development in mind, that portion of the property will be changed from from commercial high intensity, the red on the map, to high density residential. So your question, what you're trying to answer tonight is, does it make sense to allow a portion of this property to be changed from commercial to residential? The site that has that we were talking about with the existing building will remain in the commercial high intensity and will remain in commercial use.
and it's only the 3.8 acres that we're concerned about.
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody else have a stupid question? Mr.
I
Anton?
have additional stupid questions.
Okay. I just want to
So this-
clarify what's going on
I just
here.
thought of a way that may get me closer to what my concern was, which is basically the delineation between high-density residential and the plaza, whatever, remains of it. So because it's one piece of property, as it relates to the things we see with development, as it relates to setbacks, fencing, screening, all of that, to separate high-density residential and a different use, or maybe even the same use, but two different, what would normally be two different pieces of property, or often is two different pieces of property. Because this is the same owner, from a building code standpoint and the city's ordinance standpoint, are those requirements the same? So say if there was a requirement to put a fence up down the property line on the east side of the property, is that still there even though it's the same owner, the same thing? Or could these apartments be built and it's open right to the parking lot of the old Publix?
So I think I understand your concern is that if there is not a boundary line dividing the property, that there would not need to be any type of buffering or screening between the two uses.
Right, or does it change the setbacks of is the zoning line the setback? Because there is no property line.
Understood.
there.
So the setbacks are measured from the property line, which in this case, there's not a property line. However, the section that talks about the landscape yards, the required landscape yards or buffers, what we call in the code landscape yards, says required landscape yard type establishes when a landscape yard is required for differing land use intensities. Only the proposed development or redevelopment shall be required to provide the buffer. So in that case, we've got two differing land uses, regardless of the property boundary. So there would need to be a buffer established between these two differing uses.
But not necessarily a requirement for any kind of fencing or anything.
Well, fencing is a type of buffering.
Okay.
It's an option in the code.
I think I know what you're asking. Are there going to be two different land uses, two different zoning districts? They're going to have their own development standards, so they'll have to meet them individually, separately.
Independent of the fact that it's actually one piece of property.
Correct. Otherwise, they'll have to get variances to deal with issues that are in conflict.
Gotcha. That was settles some of my concerns.
Yeah, that helps. Okay. I don't know whether this is a related question. Do you know how this property is going to be marketed once it's built? Could it be, what the rental?
No, I don't. But like I do know that they're going to be apartments and they're going to be at market value at present. So I just don't know how they're going to be marketing for the rentals.
Okay. Could it be considered affordable housing?
No, they're not considered affordable housing.
Okay.
That's what I've gotten, the
Okay.
information.
Okay. Do I have any additional questions, stupid or scholarly, by other commissions? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Gilbert.
I have a comment, but not a question for the applicant. So can I say that now?
You certainly can.
Also remember that we have Andrew Jackson Middle School right down the street on Knox McCrae, which during pickup and drop off is a crazy, crazy town over there. Also, there's a concern of kids walking home that way down Knox McCrae, because I know a lot of kids do walk home, and concerns over just, Andrew Jackson right now is about 83% capacity for that school, so it might be a concern there as well. So just some things to think about.
Legitimate concerns. Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. Any additional questions to the applicant? Any additional questions to staff? I'm going to ask for a motion. Oh, clerk. Oh, excuse me.
I have one more card.
Yes, oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, Elizabeth Maslin.
Elizabeth, last name, please.
Maslin?
Maslin? Can you give your name, Ms. Maslin, and your address, please?
Okay, hi, I'm Elizabeth Maslin. I'm representing Foresight Optical at 1851 Knox McCrae Drive, the business. And I'm also speaking on behalf of the Royal Oak Professional Condominium Association. That's including the Health First Medical Group and Dr. Gregory Gullickson, who are in the same building complex. So our concern is that the village charter.
Excuse me, just a second, Ms. Maslin. Can you start the timer, please, clerk? That's okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Our concern is just that the village charter holding corporation has just not been maintaining the lift station. So there were 2 pumps associated with that, and we became aware of the situation last year when all of a sudden we've had toilets that were not functioning in our respective businesses. And there were 2 pumps that should have been maintained, and they weren't being maintained. And this is on the far side of the property, which is at Knox McCrae and Barna Avenue over there. So we became aware of that too through SOS Septic Company. And they said that they had warned Village Charter that this should be addressed, and it just was not addressed. So this has become really an issue where we've had to have pump downs about 3 times a week now for this property. And so that's why we're really concerned how this new property that's going to be developed potentially, how this is all going to tie in with the sewer and septic system, and if we're going to still have an issue that's made worse from this other prior issue not being addressed. And if they're not addressing the sewer issue, then how are they going to be maintaining other issues that come up with the new property? And the other concern we had was with parking, if there were going to be excess RVs or boats or trailers or things that could spill over into the general parking lot, and then it just brings down the look and the value of the property. So that's our concerns.
Can staff address this lady's concern? Is this a code violation concerning the?
If that were to happen, the storage of vehicles in a parking area would be considered outdoor storage.
Let's talk about sewage first.
Oh, I'm sorry, sewage. So the applicant may wish to respond to that. My understanding is when the applicant is proposing their site plan, the engineering behind that would look at the capacity at the existing lift station and see if there's potentially a need for an additional lift station. If not, the engineers review whether the lift station is adequate, which if it's not, then the pumps and sizes may need to be upgraded.
Does her current condition need to be reported to code violation, or where does she seek remedy?
So we spoke to another, I don't believe it was you, ma'am, I'm sorry. We spoke to someone else about this issue previously and referred them to Water Resources. The Water Resources Department mentioned that the lift station is a private lift station, so it's not maintained by the city, where otherwise the city could repair the lift station. And so the Department of Environmental Protection is who should be notified about a failing lift station if it's a private lift station.
Is that who she calls?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you understand that?
Well, can you just restate, like,
Who's she need to call?
like, what are you doing to really address that issue is what the concern is. Is that, are you going to be moving on it, to address it? Because it really is a concerning thing for us.
Absolutely, no, I could understand why that'd be concerning. So the lift station is a private lift station, so it's not city-owned, city-maintained. The property, if the new development were to tie into a private lift station, the lift station will be evaluated to see whether it is adequate, functioning, all of those things. If it's not, it will have to be upgraded in order to allow additional capacity from the new development. If there's a current issue without any of the new proposed development using the lift station, if there is an existing issue with the lift station, what needs to happen is the Department of Environmental Protection needs to be made aware. In some cases, the city has repaired private lift stations and then billed the property owners who are utilizing the services of that lift station. So that is a possibility. In this case, I don't know if the Water Resources Department has made an evaluation of the private lift station.
Okay, so would the new property be on a separate sewer system, or would it be part of this whole lift station?
It's possible. So at this stage, we're reviewing a planning level, which is entitlements, should the land be used for this use as opposed to a different use. What lift stations is getting more into the engineering side of things with the site development permit. And so I can't answer right now whether the new development would be tying directly into the city's utilities or if it would be connecting into some of the existing utilities that your property uses. So right now, if there's a concern with the private lift station, I would just encourage you to reach out to Water Resources Department first and see if they have any plans to visit the site, see if there's anything that they can do. Like I said, in the past, there have been some private lift stations that have been repaired by the city and then built to the property owners.
So you need to contact the water department now as a first step of what your current condition is. With
Say that again, please.
Contact the Water Resources Department now about your current conditions. What will happen with future conditions if council approves a multi-family high density would be covered by the regulations of that development.
Okay, thank you.
And now we've got a telephone number. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
All right.
Any additional comments?
Oh, no, that's
Or
just
concerns?
two things there.
Okay.
And the parking was the other thing too.
And the
that-
parking.
Just to make sure that the parking was like not going to be overflow vehicles, like if somebody owned boats and RVs and trailers, that it was all going to be part of that big lot that kind of.
Won't that be determined at another time?
Well, I can answer now that proposed use is considered outdoor storage, and so we'd have to evaluate whether that is consistent with the zoning on the property. If it is, they would have to provide screening, buffering, so it wouldn't just be utilizing the existing parking spaces with boats and without any enhancements, any upgrades to the facility.
Okay.
Does
All
that
right,
answer?
thank you.
Do those answer your questions?
That-
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Any additional comments? Member Grant, please.
I'm just curious, should this be, it seems to me that the water resources are already aware of this young lady's issue that she mentioned here. Did not just hear that they were made aware of it?
Yes, sir. I'm not sure that I spoke with her, but I spoke with.
That's okay, that's
Okay,
okay.
go ahead.
Shouldn't we table this then and wait until we can get some definitive answers from somebody?
Well, I would just like to add that the concern that was brought up is more of an existing issue with utilities and not related to the planning application.
I understand all that.
Okay.
I'm just asking whether we should go any further until we find out who, let's use a colorful metaphor, who is responsible for this. By the way, who is the owner of this private lift station? Do you know? And why haven't they been reprimanded for inadequate service?
We can investigate any complaints, and we'll do that. As far as me, and so we'll do that. Well, I've already passed our contact information to the person that just last spoke, so we'll speak with her to find out exactly what's going on.
Member Grant, I may have gone down a rabbit hole. I just wanted to assure this lady she had a concern. It's a current concern.
Yes.
She needed a telephone number of who to call with the current. Future concerns are going to be someplace else, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so as far as maintaining or
And it's my
upgrading.
fault for going down that rabbit hole. Okay?
Yeah, I just want to clarify for Ms. Grant, is that the sizing or improvements that may be necessary there will be dealt with at a site plan stage. It's typically not something we address during the land use stage, whereas a policy decision is whether this land use is appropriate. What we'll evaluate is concurrency, whether the overall system has enough capacity to accept additional density within our overall system. So we don't get down to the minutia of whether the lift station has enough capacity at this
So
stage.
you haven't investigated the level of service for this proposal yet?
We've investigated the level of service for concurrency-related facilities per the comprehensive plan for this land use application. And I don't believe there were capacity issues that jumped out during that review.
Does that answer your question, Member Grant?
Never.
Maybe? Never? Still confused? It's, okay. Blame me for going down that. Okay. Are there any additional comments from commissioners? Any questions? Okay, go to 1B. We are to approve or disapprove the rezoning from a community commercial CC zoning district to a multifamily high-density residential R3. The property is 3.8 acres. This will be heard by council on the 28th of this month. Member Richardson.
Well, at this point, I'm not prepared to make a motion. I may be, but I don't think we have enough adequate information to consider this. Either we need to deny it or table it indefinitely until they give us adequate information. Because I've heard a lot of information during the hearing that, really needs to be addressed before we make any motion to prove it.
Additional discussion? Seeing none. I've asked for a motion on the floor. I have none. Member Richardson?
I'll try. I move, we recommend denial of small-scale comprehensive plan amendment number, whatever it is,
1B,
1B.
I guess. Do I have a second for the motion, please? Seeing none.
Second.
Member Perez, second. Roll call vote, please. City Attorney, did you need a comment?
We would like to hear the basis for the denial stated in the motion.
Okay.
Total lack of information from which we judge if the small-scale amendment should be approved or not. I mean, we've heard things like the condition of the property in general, and I'm not prepared to make a motion that in any way we approve this amendment.
Mr. Richardson, if I may ask, what specific information would you like or that's missing, rather, from what
Well-
we've presented to you?
All the things that have been brought up, the division between the multifamily and the commercial, the parking situation, the condition of the present facility, including sewer capacity, and the whole thing. There's a lack of information.
Are there any additional questions or discussions by commissioners? Seeing no second, the motion dies. Yes? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Perez. Okay, roll call vote, please. And we are voting on, if you will look, the small-scale comprehensive plan.
Member Perez,
Yes.
Member Aton,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Richardson,
Yes.
Member Grant,
No.
Chairwoman Spidell.
Yes. Can you state, Mr. Richardson,
I did.
okay, is that a matter of record? Yes. Will council receive that information? Yes. Thank you very much. Okay, we are moving on to, help me out here. C is on hold. Okay, so we're going down to 1D is in dogs, small-scale comprehensive plan of chance. Okay, we got that? Yes?
Yes, the next one is 9D. That's on
Yes.
page 297 of your packet.
297. Thank you. Do we need a 7-minute break before we start this one?
That's up to the commission.
Commission? Mr. Grant needs a break. Okay?
I would suggest maybe an even 10 minutes.
I'm looking at the
Okay.
clock. It's the one thing I still know how to do is tell time a little bit, okay? So we've got 7:24, maybe. It's never accurate, but it's close, okay? I want to reconvene at 7:40. Is that enough time? Okay. Don't be late. Rules are being followed. Sounds good. Okay. First of all, clerk, are there any, staff, could you present us with 9D, please?
So 9D is a small-scale plan, comprehensive plan amendment number 10, 2022, excuse me. This is entitled Titusville Chance Partners for a project on Columbia Boulevard. The agenda begins on page 297 of your packet. The staff report begins on page 299. I'm just going to summarize a little bit of the staff report and then our findings and recommendation, and then I'll point to a couple of exhibits. A couple of them I've given you hard copies of on your dais.
What color are those, sir?
They're colored. There are two of them. One has a green and brown showing the buildings, green, yes, ma'am, that one. And there's another one similar to it that has blue coloring, correct.
Got it. Only two colors here, and you got one.
They're in your packet. I'll refer to them in a moment. So, again, the staff report begins on 299. I'm going to summarize a little bit of what to describe the property on page 301 of your packet, which is page 3 of the staff report. So this property is just under 40 acres. It's an undeveloped parcel within the city located in the southwest corner of the intersection of Columbia Boulevard and Challenger Memorial Parkway. The proposed project at full build-out is a mixed-use development with a majority of the site intended for a multifamily residential development with associated residential amenities, along with future commercial out parcels adjacent to Columbia Boulevard. So just to give you a little history about this property, in 1988, the property was annexed into the city, and it had an M1, or a warehouse and industrial zoning district, and that was approved in the same year. The annexation was adopted with several conditions that included a list of permitted uses, the number of access points that were limited or maximum that would be allowed on the property, and a performance standards such as a 75-foot buffer from the residential property, and a provision about an architectural control. In 1993, the land use on the property was changed to planned industrial park and rezoned to a planned industrial district. So this is a different zoning district was a change to in 1993 by ordinance number 5. And then in 2008, the land use and zoning was changed again to the commercial high-intensity land use and rezoned to regional commercial zoning with similar conditions that were originally approved in 1998. The conditions of approval included that same 75-foot buffer from residential, but also included a masonry wall, architectural control requirements, and the submittal of an environmental report and other conditions. This proposal, which I'll describe briefly, if approved, will result in a land use pattern of commercial adjacent to a major arterial road with multifamily located behind it. The multifamily use would be located between the commercial and arterial. What I mean by that is that what you'll see along Columbia is a strip of commercial, the remaining commercial high-intensity land use with regional commercial zoning. Behind that, this proposed development, a master plan, that's being used to change the land use to high-density residential with a PD ordinance and master plan to allow for multifamily. And then behind that, the existing single family. So to us, it's an optimum land use pattern of commercial, multifamily, single family. So multifamily is a good land use pattern to buffer between commercial and single family. Approval of the rezoning and master plan will result in a 32-acre portion of this overall 39-acre property rezoned from regional commercial to planned development to allow the multifamily apartments. The remaining 7 acres land adjacent to Columbia Boulevard, State Road 405, will be a 180-foot wide strip of land remain zoned regional commercial with the conditions of approval described in ordinance number 21-2008. What I mean by that is that ordinance that changed this whole property to commercial and high intensity with regional commercial back in 2008 included those conditions that I described earlier, such as that architectural control, number of access points, masonry wall, buffer. Those conditions will remain on that commercial strip that'll be along Columbia Boulevard. Because the applicant is not proposing to change that ordinance and change that zoning there. So what will remain on this property as commercial will still have those special conditions that were originally approved in 2008. Approval of this land use and this PD rezoning and the master plan will result in a maximum density of 488 residential units on this property. A master plan is required with the submittal of a PD rezoning application. The applicant is proposing a 50-foot buffer and 50-foot setback, building setback from the adjacent single-family subdivision to the south. I just want to clarify, we proposed a condition that stated that, a 50-foot buffer with a 50-foot building setback, and we believe that they could overlap. They're not in addition to each other. The plan does not include a masonry wall. The plan proposes 2 driveways through the strip of land that will continue to be zoned regional commercial. The driveways will be shared between the multifamily project and any future commercial developments. And we propose that in the conditions of the PD ordinance, which I'll point out in a moment as well. The PD in our city's code requires a minimum 35% open space. According to section 30-163F3 of the code, common open space, according to code in the PD rezoning, is defined as a space that includes both passive recreation, for example, picnic areas or walking trails, an active recreation, for example, playgrounds or basketball courts, areas, private water bodies and stormwater retention or detention areas that are designed to be used for passive recreation, for example, improved with fountains, benches, and walkways, may be counted towards the common open space minimum requirement. The open space exhibit of the master plan, which is that second sheet that has the blue coloring, identifies a dog park, courtyards, sidewalk, and dry retention ponds to be counted towards as open space. The applicant further states that the open space exhibit reflects the areas of the active and passive open space. The recreational amenities being proposed include the following: walking trails, benches, a dog park, amenity center with the multifamily buildings, linear park, amenitized breezeway, and pool. That's a quote from the application. Now I'm going to jump to page 314 of your packet and just summarize the findings and recommendation to you. We reviewed this application based on the city's comprehensive plan. We identified several policies and goals, objectives, and policies from the comprehensive plan we believe were relevant, and those are in the comprehensive plan. We believe that this application is consistent with those goals, objectives, and policies identified in the staff report. We also reviewed it for the rezoning petition, and we believe the application meets the criteria and is consistent with the criteria for rezoning. We also reviewed it for the criteria related to a planned development, and we believe that it is generally consistent with those criteria. I will point out that we did propose additional enhancements or additional amenities to be added for open space, and those are conditions of the PD ordinance. We also reviewed it for criteria related to the master plan and believe that this is consistent with those criteria. So on page 314 of your packet, I'll just state here the findings and the recommendation. The comprehensive plan future land use small scale map amendment is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. The rezoning is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and the land development regulations, including the PD and rezoning criteria described in section 33-8 and 33-40 of the code. The master plan is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, land development regulations, and master plan requirements described in Chapter 34, Article 2, Division 3 of the code. Our recommendation is to approve the comprehensive plan future land use scale, small scale map amendment from the commercial high intensity land use category to the high density residential land use category on the proposed 32.5 acre portion of the overall 39 acre property as illustrated and described in the land use ordinance. We also recommend approval of the rezoning petition from the regional commercial zoning district to the planned development zoning district with master plan and conditions on the 32.5 acre portion of the overall 39 acre property as described in the rezoning ordinance. I'm going to point to that in a moment, what those conditions are. The conditions of approval include a maximum 488 residential units, a 50-foot maximum building height, an architectural control statement, a 50-foot buffer and building setback from the adjacent single-family residential subdivision, up to 2 shared driveways to be shared with the adjacent commercial zoning, open space, recreational amenities, multi-use path, and bicycle shelter. So with that, I'm going to point you to page 316 of your packet, and that's the existing future land use on the property. And you can see this entire property has the the commercial high-intensity land use. On the next page of your packet, page 317, you'll see how, if this is land use is approved, how the map will be amended. And you'll have the majority of this property land use category changed from commercial to high-density residential, which allows 15 residential units per acre. And then the remaining commercial land use will be that strip along Columbia Boulevard. On page 328 of your packet is the planned development rezoning ordinance. And the reason I'm going to this is because this is consistent with the city's code of how this is supposed to be formatted with the conditions of approval for this master plan and rezoning. This will govern the property as a unique zoning district on this property. On page 330 of your packet, I'll just generally identify some of the conditions that we're recommending for approval of this. The PD rezoning ordinance will identify the list of uses that will be allowed on this property that is be zoned PD. Permitted uses include residential areas to be limited to multifamily buildings with clubhouses and ancillary recreational uses. The future commercial parcels are not part of this planned development zoning, and billboards are prohibited and must be removed. There is an existing billboard on the property, and that would have to be removed prior to development. The density, of course, is going to be maxed again to 488 residential units, and the future commercial parcels are again not part of this planned development zoning. Critical design features of this property include the multifamily buildings with ancillary uses. The master plan includes one dog park, courtyards, and sidewalk. Common area recreational amenities to include a minimum of 3 of the following shall be submitted for review and approval with the site plan. That's an addition. So that's what I'm suggesting here to make up what we thought was deficient as far as meeting the open space and recreational amenities. We just think that this PD ordinance and this master plan should clarify that, or they should propose some additional amenities when they submit their site plan. We didn't feel it necessary to require that now at this stage. So we've identified pool, tennis court, basketball court, playground, fitness, exercise equipment adjacent to walking and running trails and paths. So they can propose how that would be accomplished at the site plan stage. The site plan will propose the preservation of existing large canopy trees or clusters of canopy trees, including areas of upland, scrub pine, and oaks to be incorporated into common areas to provide shade in the courtyards and where multi-use paths are located. If you recall, we spent quite a lot of time on our tree ordinance and updating that. So this addresses that. So at site plan stage, we will review their proposal and encourage them or work with them to see how much large trees they can preserve on the property and to incorporate them into common areas. And we're encouraging the development to incorporate low impact development techniques as described in our recently approved ordinance. The total open space that's counted in this project is 11 acres. The maximum, I'm going on to the next page now, on page 331. There's some other conditions here. Again, there'll be a maximum building height of 50 feet, and that's stated in the master plan. The building setback on the south property line will be 50 feet. The site plan will include the submittal of a single architectural style with description of materials and color palette to be utilized. All subsequent amendments to the site plan, phases, building, and signage construction shall adhere to the selected architectural style, materials, and color palette. What I mean by that, just to clarify for everyone here, is that we carried over the architectural control statement from the original ordinance that was approved in 2008 on this property. It still governs it now. This architectural control statement will be carried over to this PD ordinance for the multifamily use. But it's leaving it up to the applicant to decide what that architectural style is at time of site plan. So once they've submitted to us a particular architectural style, all subsequent development improvements on that property will have to follow that particular architectural style. The minimum living area of each residential unit shall be 600 square feet. That's per code for the PD ordinance, PD zoning, rather. And we're also including no metal buildings shall be allowed. That's a carryover from the previous ordinance that currently govern this property. On the same page, we're limiting the number of access points to this property to 2, as proposed in the master plan. So the adjacent residential or commercial developments will also share those same access points. We believe that's appropriate, especially on this major arterial road that's controlled by FDOT, to really just not have individual driveways for every use and every commercial property use on that arterial. So this is more about access management. We included a statement in here about the location of parking areas, the number of spaces, and design specifications on the master plan are for illustrative purposes only and shall not be utilized to implement the site plan. So what I mean by that is that what you'll see on the master plan as far as location of where these parking lots are, that is, and the dimensions that they've identified on there, that those are not fixed. That at the site plan, we can work with them to see if maybe those could be reduced or reconfigured in some way, especially as it relates to trying to preserve trees. This property is also an area of critical concern, so there are also, that's in our wellfield area. So there's a maximum impervious coverage that is a standard in our code that they'll have to adhere to. So these conditions will just allow us some flexibility to work with them. I've also included some language in here about a multi-use path to accommodate both the pedestrian and bicyclists. Shall be located parallel to the frontage driveway. What I mean by that, there, if you look on the plan, along the north, adjacent to or parallel to the commercial strip on the north part of this development, you'll see they've got this shared access driveway that runs east-west in front of the multifamily development. That's what I mean by that parallel road. And so we're suggesting that they include not just the standard sidewalks on both sides of that road, but also maybe a pedestrian pathway or a multi-use pathway, at least on one side. That's wide enough to accommodate bicyclists and pedestrians comfortably. We've also included a statement that there should be a bicycle shelter. That's a covered shelter for bicyclists, especially for those residents of this development. The rest of the statements in here are pretty standard in our PD ordinances and our code. On the next page, on page 332 of your packet, this is about the 50-foot landscape buffer shall be established, leaving existing foliage undisturbed where possible. This is related to the south boundary of this development, adjacent to the single-family subdivision, and maintaining a vegetated buffer along there. But that also overlaps with the 50-foot building setback. That was our understanding. That's our interpretation. We received a call from the applicant to clarify that, and we want to clarify that now. So if we need to amend this ordinance, we can do that to clarify that. On page 334 and 335 of your packet is the proposed master plan and the open space exhibit, which you have in hard copy. And so you can see where the strip of land that will remain commercial is along, along Columbia, and then behind it will be the proposed multifamily development. They've included a proposal for carriage houses. I'll leave the applicant to define exactly what that is, and then also a townhomes. Our code defines townhomes as something where you're dividing land on a multifamily structure. They're not proposing that. This is all going to be under one single ownership with rented units. But if we need to clarify that these townhomes are going to be just for rent, we can do that for the record, or part of this PD ordinance, or maybe relabel where it says townhomes to something else that says, for rent only or for row housing. But we don't understand that to be proposed in the future to be a platted subdivision of townhomes. The total on that same exhibit on page 334, the number of units for each of these buildings adds up to 497 residential units. That will have to be amended or be capped per the ordinance that we're proposing here at 488. The reason for that is because when this application initially came to us, it included the driveways as part of the land use amendment. We told them that it was better to maybe either include the entire commercial area as part of their PD, plan development, or exclude those driveways out so that that whole commercial strip along Columbia meets our zoning requirements for a regional commercial zoning district. Because the way it was originally proposed to us, it was going to create a nonconformity. We wouldn't have been able to approve this. So by removing those driveways out from the proposed land use amendment, those driveways will remain commercial. That had reduced their acreage a little bit. So what they initially had proposed as their density to be 497 units will now be capped at 488 because of the acreage, 15 units per acre. The last thing I want to bring up is that in your packet, we did not include the school report that was submitted to us later after publication of this agenda. I have included it on Agenda Star on your, I can just summarize what was in there. The school district did find that the nearest elementary school, Imperial, will not have capacity to handle this new density. However, when they look at a larger area of this school district or the school zones for elementary schools, for example, they did find it was enough capacity. So they did not see that there was a concurrency issue at this stage of the land use amendment. Now, of course, like any development, if this gets approved, and they go forward with their site plan, they'll have to go through the school district again to do a formal concurrency assessment. With that, I'll answer any questions. The applicant is also here to answer any questions, and I know they do have a presentation they'd like to give you as well.
First thing I'd like to do is ask the clerk how many cards we have, please. $20, okay, thank you. Before we begin the cards, are there any questions from commissioners before we begin? Seeing none, let me remind each person, each 20, that we have a 3-minute limit. That if you have visuals to present, please present them to us. We enjoy personal comments, but we don't enjoy repetition of the same thing over and over again 19 times. Do you understand? And we've already given you one break, right? Okay. Can we start the cards, please?
Kim Renzinka.
Ms. Rosinka? Could you state your name and address, sir?
Good evening, members of commission. My name's Kenan Husseini with Kimley Horn and Associates, 7341 Office Park Place, Melbourne, Florida. So we're here on behalf of the client. First, I want to thank staff. They have been incredible to work with. They did an excellent job helping us through the pre-application meeting, helping us set up the community outreach meeting, and then helping us with our formal applications. I don't know that I've been a part of a more thorough explanation of an item than Mr. Parrish did, so I appreciate that. That makes our job a lot easier. So this next slide shows our project team. Here tonight with me is our land use counsel, Kim Rozanka from Lacey Lyons Rozanka, our traffic engineer from LTG, our landscape architect from Susan Hall, and last but not least, our development partner, Chance Partners, Judd Bobelin. So we're here today, as you heard, for a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment and a proposed rezoning of 32.55 acres of the total 39-acre parcel from regional commercial to planned development. Location map, you heard, as Mr. Parrish said, it's located at State Road 405 and State Road 407, the southwest corner, Challenger. And here's the project survey. This is the overall project. This was done by Allen Engineering. Only a portion of the site is being rezoned, as stated by Mr. Parrish. Here's the proposed site plan that Mr. Parrish spoke about. We're not here for site plan today, but this gives us an idea of what we're going to do. It lays out the multifamily component. It lays out the carriage homes. It lays out the townhomes that won't be platted. We'll go on record saying that this will be a single owner. There will not be platting. And it lays out the 2 access points as required by this item number. Also, as we laid it out, we wanted to make sure that we did the best job we could is buffering from the adjacent residents. As you'll see on the plan, we maintain that 50-foot buffer. Where possible, we located stormwater ponds adjacent to the residential units. We're maintaining all wetlands on site. There's no wetlands to be impacted. And we also located the carriage and townhome component as close to the residential as possible because they're just 2-story residential units. This area here further describes the 32.55 acres as part of the rezoning package. Here's a typical architectural color rendering that the developer has done on a previous project. It will be similar in nature to this for the multifamily buildings. The recreational open space exhibit that was asked for by staff, I think it looks great. It helps understand what we're going to do as part of the code required recreational open space. This next slide further goes into detail. The 2 pictures there are representative of what the project is going to have. If you look at the plan, it's tough to see, but each of the 2 multifamily buildings will have a resort-style pool along with an amenitized walkway, amenitized breezeway, dog park, walking trails, benches and picnic areas, an amenity center that's located within the building, a resort-style pool area, as I said, linear park, exercise stations. A big thing that I'm glad Mr. Parrish brought up was bicycles. With this product, they have a bike share program that they give to their residents where they will, in fact, have a bike housing or a bike shelter area as requested by staff.
How much longer, sir?
I think we got 3 slides.
Okay.
Again, I'll go quickly. Our landscape architect and survey team worked closely together to make sure that we established the buffering requirement and make sure we met that 10% retention of specimen trees. Here's an exhibit that shows that. I'll continue. Community outreach, we met at the Garden Club. It was a really enjoyable meeting. Plus or minus 25 residents came out. We had a very open conversation that lasted around 2 hours. They expressed some concerns. We made subtle tweaks to the plan to make sure we're eliminating some of their concerns. Listed here, you have some of those concerns. I believe some residents are here tonight, and they're very enjoyable to work with, so excited about what they had to say. Quickly, just some previous projects. These are some of the build-out features that this developer offers. Here's a product, a kitchen. Here's one of the community centers or amenity centers. Here's one of the townhome units. And then lastly, thank you. Our project team is here to answer any questions you have, even if they are stupid questions.
Don't refer to the stupid questions that I may ask you later. I just kind of,
I'm excited about them.
The stupid questions or the project?
About the project.
Okay, good,
yes.
good. Member Richardson, please.
I have a question on your definition of carriage houses.
Yes, sir.
How many square feet and?
So I don't have the exact square footage, but if we go back to, in your packet, I can't go back, but in your packet, the units themselves, they look long. What they are is they're garages underneath with 2 units above. They're only 2 stories. So it's like a loft style apartment,
Okay.
that there's just 2 units per building that you see on those individual carriage-style units. And floor plans can be submitted at the time of site plan approval.
Okay, and I understand you can't speak for the developer and answer this question, but this is a question that I would like answered. How many of these would be considered affordable? This is a big issue in the city of Titusville, and it's becoming bigger.
Yes, please. Critical question,
Name, address.
please.
Judd Bobolin. I live at 17549 Deer Isle Circle in Winter Garden, Florida.
Thank you.
You want me to answer the first question about the size of those carriage home units?
Yeah.
They'll be approximately about 960 square feet. There'll be 1-bedroom dens that sit above that. Okay. Second question, we won't have any affordable units.
So it's market rate.
It's all Class A market rate rentals.
Can you give me a guesstimate on what market rate would be in the next 24 months?
I wish.
Yeah. It's
You'd
an
ask
unfair
me for
question.
what the total rent would be?
Yes.
Approximately. So our average size of units for the total project, including townhomes and carriage homes, and I will rename that they're rental townhomes, but they'll be about 980 square feet in total.
Right.
And so our average rent will be approximately $1,600 a month.
Thank you.
Sure.
Knowing that that's a guesstimate, right?
That's a guesstimate, correct?
Thank you. Okay. Are you finished, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioners, what other questions do you have, sir, of these 2 gentlemen? None? Go ahead, sir.
One more thing. In speaking to the residents, they wanted us to confirm on record that we wouldn't be burning as a part of any construction.
The residents are going to say what they're concerned about. Okay.
Understood. They just wanted me to say it on record, so.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's fine. I think they're going to say it too, but that's fine. We're okay. Okay.
Sit down.
Is that it? Okay. Commissioners, again, any questions of these 2 gentlemen? Okay, next card, please.
Cameron Dinka?
Ms. Dinka?
You've been here before.
A few times. Good evening, Council. My name is Kim Rosanka with Lacey Lyons Rosanka on here on behalf of the applicant. I'm really going to listen to what the residents have to say and answer questions in rebuttal, unless you all have questions in advance. We have agreed to everything that staff has agreed to. I just do want to make one comment. When we talk about a single architectural style, we understand it to be a theme because you don't want it to look bad, but you don't want every building to look the same either. So that was the only qualification that I want to make as an single architectural theme as opposed to a single architectural style. 488 units, you don't want them to look alike. They'll look like something institutional, which you don't want in your community. So unless you have questions, we accept all the recommendations of staff. We do appreciate all of their input, and that's all that I have to say right now. We also have the next up, Matthew West. He is the traffic engineer. He's here to answer any questions. I mean, if you've read the traffic study of the number of trips that could be here, the 1.7 million square feet of commercials that could be here. But he's here to answer questions, as is Susan Hall, the landscape architect. You don't need to call them up unless you have questions for them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we do
Madam Chairwoman.
understand, Commissioners, this is a quasi-judicial.
I just want to have one clarification about the architectural condition, so that everybody understands. What it's going to ask for is a style that includes a listing, a description of materials, color palette to be utilized, and this will be approved, submitted with a site plan, and will guide and be utilized to approve any subsequent development. So it needs to be detailed enough for us to be able to use.
Correct.
Okay.
Understood.
On the other hand, we're not going to be a partner to that right now.
No, we're not proposing.
Okay, okay. That's in the future, staff.
So, and we do ask
Okay.
for approval of the small scale amendment and also for the PD and master plan approval.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any questions to council? Seeing none, next card, please.
I have Matthew West, if you had any questions for him.
Mr. West, you're just here.
Matthew West.
Thank you.
I'm with LTG.
Yes.
1450 West Granada Boulevard, Ormond Beach, Florida. And for the record, I am not an engineer. I'm a transportation planner. But I'm here to answer any questions if you have questions about our analysis.
And you're not associated with the Department of Transportation?
No.
You're just,
I am not.
you're just what you are?
Yeah, I'm a consultant. I'm a consultant for the development.
We like you. Okay, thank you. Okay? You are what you are, okay? Any additional, what about the landscape person? You want to introduce yourself just in case? That helps to clarify before we have any questions.
Good evening. My name is Susan Hall. We're landscape architects based on Merritt Island, Florida, and can answer questions that come up this evening.
Good.
Happy to answer.
So if residents or commissioners have any questions on landscaping, Ms. Hall is your resource.
Yes,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much. Okay. We got that? Cards, please.
Maria Lombardo.
Ms. Lombardo, you're the first one. Remember my admonishment, okay?
My name's-
We just have to know the rules. It just makes me cranky otherwise. So state your name and your address, please.
My name's Maria Lombardo. My address is 6340 West Spring Lane. And one of the main concerns we have is when they're clearing the land, if there's going to be burning taking place behind our properties, because we don't want that. So that's our main concern that we wanted to address.
Tell us your residence in relation to this development.
It's the property that would be behind one of the carriage houses on the map, so.
And that's your personal
that's where I
property?
live, yes.
Okay. And you don't like the burning?
No, we don't want fire behind our houses, so
Okay.
if they could remove that foliage and stuff after they've cleared it, instead of burning it, that's what we would
We don't like clear cutting either, so, okay.
So-
Okay, so is that your concern?
that's my
Is
concern.
clear cutting your concern or only the burning?
The burning is my concern. I don't want to have the smoke infiltrating our neighborhood and our houses and everything.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much. Okay. Next card, please.
Sharon Lombardo.
Ms. Lombardo? State your name and your address, please, Ms. Lombardo.
Sharon Lombardo, 6340 Whispering Lane.
Thank you.
I also am concerned about the burning. Don't want that. Clearing it, taking it off would be great. Clear cutting is not good. We want as much foliage that can be left because it is a very beautiful natural area. That's our concern.
That's it.
That's it.
Any questions from Ms. Lombardo and her daughter? I'm assuming it's her daughter?
Daughter.
Good job. Okay, nice family.
Thank you.
Okay. Next,
Jeffrey Belmont and Ann Francis.
Mr. Belmont. Thank you so much, sir. Next card, please.
Sandra Serrato.
Ms. Serrato. How are you, dear?
Good, how are you? I'm Sandra Serrato. I'm at 6330 Whispering Lane. The burning question has already been answered, and I just wanted to make sure that the carriage houses sound very good to me, but I don't want to see the site plan change and then have something really tall right behind my house. So is there any way to have the site plan certified, or do we have to wait till city council?
Let me get an answer from staff so you'll know they're the experts on this.
Okay.
Brad, can you clarify?
Are we concerned about the homes to the south side?
The developers told me that the carriage homes are gonna be 2 stories with a garage underneath and then the living area on top. There's a 35-foot limit within this proposal. So I want to be assured that they're not gonna change that, and I'm gonna end up with a 3-story townhouse behind my house.
Well, the PD has they're proposing a maximum height of 50 feet of any structure. And that's what we propose as a condition of the PD rezoning ordinance. Now, if we need to clarify, yes, I understand, but if they decide to relocate the buildings in some way, and that doesn't necessarily mean an amendment to the master plan, it's possible that you might have a structure back there that's within 50 feet of that property line. So if we need to clarify that and maybe state that or as a condition of the plan, that you won't have a structure that is greater than 35 feet within a certain distance to that property line, that's something we can do. But right now,
Are you talking about distance between properties? I think she's talking about building height, aren't you?
yes, but it's far enough, right now, there's a condition that we're proposing at 50 feet for any structure from that property line. But at that 50-foot line, that structure can go up to 50 feet height. So I think what she's concerned about is anything more than 35 feet. If the applicant wants to address that and maybe include a proposal, I know there was some discussion about using the carriage houses as a means of buffering any large multifamily buildings from single family. If they want to concur or state that this layout is fixed, they can do that. But right now, the conditions of approval would allow us to work with the applicant to see if things move around based on conditions on the site.
Do you understand that?
I understand that.
Okay.
My last final
Now,
question.
your nonverbals indicate that you may understand it, but you're not too happy
about
with
it.
that.
Right.
Okay, well then tell us what
Right.
you're unhappy with.
Like I said, I know that this property is going to get developed. This isn't the first rodeo. We've been here before with another developer.
You look familiar, yes.
Pardon me?
You look familiar,
Oh.
Becky, you've been before.
I wouldn't fight this proposal as opposed to the one that Mercedes Homes proposed a number of years back because of the lower height that is abutting the residential area. But if they change it, then I want to fight it.
Okay.
So anyway, and my other last question was, he said staff recommended a 50-foot buffer and a 50-foot setback. Are those both one and the same?
They're overlapping. That's what we're proposing.
Okay.
So it'll only be 50 feet.
That's all I have.
Thank you so much. Next card, please.
Amy Benson.
Ms. Benson?
Hi, I'm Amy Benson, 6293 Whispering Lane, Titusville. And my main concern was the burning because I've grown up in this town, and I can tell you with the construction boom in the last 2 years, I've had to go on using an inhaler really bad this year from July until October 31st. Since the $1 million homes along US 1 started going in, there's been a cloud of dust all day long in the middle of the day that you have to drive through. And a construction friend of mine told me yesterday that's actually an EPA violation. I just want to make sure that people are going to do the things they're supposed to do so that people in our area don't get sick. I just think it's the right thing to do.
Mr. Parrish, can you give Ms. Benson some assurance of what the current regulations are about burning? And what remedy she may seek?
I was just looking to see what our code says specifically about that, about removal of vegetation and whether you can burn. And I have not been able to locate it, but I know our code doesn't prohibit it. So if that's something we want to propose as a condition of this approval, I'd recommend that and maybe in concurrence with the applicant.
So that can be a condition to approval?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Benson, anything else?
Just, we have a great town here, and I'd like our quality of life in it to be tip-top still.
Smoke-free, yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Next card, please.
Jay Yurtowski?
Mr. Tiskas, say it for me.
Yes.
Yeah, Jay Urotsky, 6389 Whispering Lane, also in that same street back, and I just want to reiterate the burning concern. That was our major concern.
And you
That's all.
understand what provisions council has made, and you understand what conditions we've made about clear cutting and burning?
Yes.
Today, okay, good.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Next card, please.
Judy Kloss.
Ms. Fox? Kloss? Can you spell it, please?
C-L-O-N-T-Z.
Clerk, do you have that?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Next card, please.
Ramona Third.
Ms. Third.
Lamona 3rd, 6258 Whispering Lane here in Titusville. On top of the burning, I had a question about the buffering. When we were at the meeting this summer, the residents were concerned about the 50-foot buffering. But we thought that we had also talked about putting up some kind of a wall or something between us because there is so much transient people who are going to be in this home. I mean, you're going to have people who are just coming in for a couple of weeks that are going to be renting that. That's what we were told, because it was just going to be rentals, short-term rentals.
I think developer needs to answer that question, please, or clarify.
We're
I
concerned
think
about
this is,
people coming
this is
back.
not short-term rental properties, are they? Okay, just clarify.
Yeah, there will be no short-term rentals at this location. And
Okay,
we spoke back and forth about wall and fence, and the big issue there is in order to put up a masonry wall, you're gonna have to clear it the minimum of 25-foot path, so you'll lose all those trees. The overwhelming majority of the residents would rather have that mature tree buffer than a wall that has to be painted and gets dirty and stuff like that. That was the conversation at the community outreach meeting. But there were differing opinions. I'm not gonna say that some people like the idea of a wall or a fence, but I think overall the majority would rather have that mature buffer.
Okay, well, we did talk about it just being the short-term rental because of them coming from, here from other sites, but y'all decided not to do
Yeah,
the short-term?
There will be no short-term 2-3 week rentals, none at all.
So these are lease, what rentals will be leased, correct? Is that correct, sir?
Do I need to restate my name?
I think you're okay.
All of the rentals will be at least a 10 to 14-month term lease.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Were your concerns answered? Were your concerns answered?
Well, I'm still concerned about how we can keep people from going from, like, our kids going from our neighborhood over into their area with just a little buffer, and
Kids climb walls too, yeah. So is it kid behavior you're worried about? I'm always worried about kid behavior. Okay. Next card, please. Thank you.
Sadie Neal.
Ms. Neal.
Hi, I'm Sadie Neal, 6320 Whispering Lane, and I want to know about the burn. That was one thing. I think they answered that question. And another thing, I'd like to make sure the turtles are taken care of back there.
Are you talking about gopher tortoises?
Yes.
And the regulations we have, those are state regulations. Maybe Mr. Parrish could assuage your concerns. Mr. Parrish.
So that is there's a state agency that would require any permitting related to protected species, such as the gopher tortoises, and that would be dealt with during the site plan stage. That's a state permit, and that's not a city permit. So they would have to follow whatever state statutory requirements or state requirements for that.
Perhaps an environmental impact statement.
I mean, they do have to provide to us an environmental report, which they did, and we included a redacted version of that in the packet for you. But if we need additional information, we will certainly ask for that during the site plan stage.
Thank you. Did that answer your concerns? Yes. Thank you. Next card, please.
David Vesmer.
Mr. Mesper? Vesper, thank you.
I am Dave Besmer, and at 6280 Whispering Lane. And one of the things was the burning thing, which I'm good with that. And the only other concern I have is just the building heights. As they don't get too tall, but that's about it.
Have we answered your question about that, sir?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Next card, please.
Sharon McClendon.
Ms. McClendon.
I'm Sharon McClellan, and I live at 6310 Whispering Lane, and one of the townhouses is going in behind my property. I'm not here to object of the property. We're pretty satisfied with that, but I'm here concerned about the burn. And I think that we have covered all of that, and most of us that were here were concerned about the burning and health reasons.
Have we answered your questions?
You have. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. Next card, please.
Judith Dolfell?
Ms. Dolph?
I don't need to get up. They have, on record, have said they will not burn. You have put the condition on, or.
Well, we haven't yet, but
Hopefully you.
we've
put
heard
the
you.
condition
Yes, okay.
On, that item, so.
Thank you.
Very well said.
You're happy? Okay, or at least you're satisfied with the answer. Okay, very good. Next card, please.
David Dolfell?
Ditto.
David, you're a smart man. You agree with your wife? She gets up? Excellent. Okay.
I'm old, but not stupid.
Now, watch that. Watch those qualifying things because I'm in that category. Okay. Next card, please.
Daniel Williams.
Mr. Williams. State your name, Mr. Williams, and your address, please.
My name is Daniel Williams. I live at 5984 Barnett Avenue.
Yes, sir.
I will actually face the property that's under question. And the reason why I'm here is I was concerned of building height.
Yes,
and
sir.
I'm actually very glad to hear the height that they're putting it. But I think my next big, huge concern is, that has been brought up in here twice, is traffic. I live on Barn Avenue, and I have lived there for 10 years, and I have watched, I have listened to the impact of cars for 10 years, and 10 people have died. The reason why I brought that up, because we are in a very growing area where we're at. Across from the Police Hall of Fame, you got a very beautiful subdivision. You have subdivisions going in on Singleton. You have this new subdivision, and I am sure there's going to be a lot more because there is a lot more property. My concern is traffic. How are you going to get DOT and in a partnership to control the traffic on 405 and on a 407, which has been turned over to the Turnpike Authority? It is no longer a state road. So with that being said, and we have all of the traffic on Singleton, Grissom, that has got subdivisions, I think that is one of my biggest concerns. And I work on that interstate day in and day out. I work on state roads day in and day out. And to me, one death is too many. And that's just my way of looking at it. And housing is great, even if it's low income, high income, but you lose one person. The housing subdivision doesn't mean crap to half the people that just watch somebody die. And I've watched 2 people in Wendover lose their life. So that is my biggest concern.
Thank
is
you, sir.
traffic.
Has there been a traffic study done, Mr. Parrish, on this development?
We do have a traffic study that was submitted to us as part of the land use application. At the site plan stage, we will require a new traffic study related to any trips and any potential evaluation of impacts to local nearby intersections and roadways at that stage as well. So we got one now, and we'll ask for it again later.
Do you understand that, sir?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The other projects you were talking about do not relate to this
Yeah,
particular.
they do not relate to this one, and I wish
know. We
I would have
appreciate
known
it.
about it, but I would have said that question earlier,
Thank
an
you.
hour ago, but that's okay.
Okay, okay, thank you. Okay. Clerk, could you reset the timer? I think mine has, now it's okay. Okay, we're okay now. Any additional cards?
No, ma'am, that was the last one.
That's it? I want to compliment those people who have been specific in their concerns. And
We
thank you,
expected to
staff.
be here at least 2 more hours.
Don't be talking about that, Mr. Richardson. We gave you a piece of cheese about an hour ago to tide you over, okay? Now we would like questions from commissioners, please. Concerns, and first of all is Member Aton.
So I think we're fine with the burning. The applicant has agreed. And you know, whoever makes the motion will, hopefully will put the condition in there. For the applicant, the other big one, which I agree with, is a way, an acceptable way to meet the goals of staff, to give you the flexibility to move the townhouses around at the perimeter of the property and maximize the trees, but yet put a condition that's acceptable to do that. Any ideas? My thought is something like, if it's a building that's within 100 feet of the perimeter of the property, it's restricted to whatever a two-story building is, 30, 35 feet. And then the buildings that are farther away than that can do it. Or I want to come up with something that works for everybody, but ideally craft a condition that handles the, covers off the concerns so that it's not open-ended. So it looks like the 2 townhomes and the 5 carriage houses are the ones in question. And you said all would be 2-story product, which is great, stays below the limit. I think everybody's in favor of that. It's just a way to memorialize that as part of the motion.
Yes, please. Thank you, sir.
So as you know, at this stage, we're here for comp plan and land use rezoning. We'll be back for site plan. And in order to make sure that we're doing what staff's requesting of us for recreational commercial and making sure we're hearing the residents' concerns, that will all be, work together with staff to make sure that these concerns are heard. If we were to place that restriction tonight, it would limit what we could do for the recreational commercial and meet that intent of code. So I'm not saying that we're not going to do it. We have every intention of not changing the plan. That's why we submitted it as is. But there's a reason that's at site plan. It gives us time to work through the site plan with staff and make sure that the requirements of code are met. Again, we're coming back here. So if we come back with, a wall of 50-foot buildings on the 50-foot buffer, you guys have the ability to act on it at that time.
Do we, Brad?
You do. I mean, the last paragraph of the draft ordinance says, buildings may be relocated or rearranged within the property setbacks without a need for an amendment to the master plan. So that allows us flexibility to work with the applicant. However, if you want to put some limitations to ensure that there's some protection, I could suggest that there's the 75-foot buffer requirement that was originally governing on this property could be used to say something like anything more than 35 feet tall, which is the height of the carriage houses and townhomes, has to be 75 feet away from the property line. I mean, it's up to the commission. I'm just throwing that out, but there's things like that you can put.
I think we're fine with it. 35 feet tall within the 50-foot buffer. What we don't.
The conditions already says that buildings must be 50 feet from that property line. So that's already there.
But can there be a 50-foot building 50 feet from the property
Yes.
line? That's the concern. We want to figure out a way to, in that 75-foot area, restrict the height on the perimeter.
Exactly, and we would be doing that through the site plan approval process.
I get that. I just want these folks to understand that there's not an out.
Thank you. Member Richardson, please.
Yes, I agree completely. But, I think it's essential that there be a limit of 35 foot in height. Those 6 or 7, however many they are, units that abut of the houses along Whispering Lane. We just want to make sure that those that abut Whispering Lane are covered by 35 feet. And after that, up to 50.
Is that an affirmative, Ms. Parrish?
I would defer to the applicant to see if they would concur or agree with that.
Does the applicant agree with that? That's a concern with several residents too, yes.
Kim Rosanka, again for the applicant. We don't have a problem with that, but abutting means a lot of different things. It's ambiguous. So we can agree that there will be nothing higher than 35 feet within 75 feet of the property line.
Perfect.
So that addresses that. That goes back to the 70-foot buffer that was there prior when it was industrial.
And that defines buffer for you?
Yes, and that,
Okay.
and also too, we obviously agreed to no burning vegetation on site as a condition. So that's, I mean, that's, I think, the way it needs to be stated, no vegetated burning on site.
I think we have to.
I just wanted, I was trying to
help.
help with language.
Thank you.
All right.
We appreciate that always. Okay. Any additional comments or comments from commissioners, please? Questions? You got it? You're good? Everybody happy? Okay, we're in good shape. Okay, let's look at approval of a comprehensive plan, future land use, small scale map amendment from commercial high intensity land use category to high density residential land use. Do I need to stipulate anything else in this? Mr. Parrish, help me out.
If that's a motion, if you're making a motion or?
I can't, no, I'm
Okay.
not allowed. I'm not allowed.
Okay. If
I
someone,
just have to say, do I have a motion?
so the motion maker should, that's a clear motion, but I'd also encourage that motion maker to state why approval or whatever motion they make, that they're making.
You want to know,
This is to the land use amendment only first.
correct, that's what I've asked for. If you vote against it, you need to say why. Is that right? Is that what you want?
Yes, if you look at page 314 of your packet, it may give you some guidance.
Wait. We're still looking at the land. And while everybody's getting on page 314, I would like to commend the developer. I hope others agree with me. But this was a very professional presentation with all parties that we needed to ask questions of. We appreciate those parties being present, and an outstanding presentation of local residents too. So this is.
And the pre-meeting, that
Yeah,
obviously made
yeah.
a big.
I'm telling you, we see some stuff here, and this is good stuff. So you need to be complimented on that. Thank you. Okay, on page 314, we have findings and recommendations. If anybody needs to look at that particular slide on their computer, please.
If I may chime in here, what the
Yes.
city is looking for is two motions. First on the comprehensive plan amendment.
Correct.
And Brad is asking, and I am asking, that the findings above the recommendation be included in the motion. So what we're seeing here under the comprehensive plan amendment, that's the recommendation for this body to take action. Finding number 1 it goes with the comprehensive plan amendment. Finding number 2 and 3 go with the rezoning recommendation.
Comprehensive plan amendment plus rezoning. So there are three different things here. Is that correct?
So there's two motions, and the first motion will have the first finding with it, and the second motion on the rezoning will also include the second and third findings from staff's report.
Okay, one more question before I take a stab at this.
Mr.
Should-
Hinton.
Should the conditions go with the first one, the second one, or both?
The conditions are tied to the PD ordinance, so that'd be part of your second motion. Yeah.
I have written down two conditions, both the burning and the buffer situation. Can they be both combined?
Well,
As-
they're on
Yes.
rezoning. That was my clarification. So they need to be part of the second motion, not the first motion.
Mr. Anton's going to make this motion because I think he knows what's going on. Okay.
I'm going to take a stab at it. So I'm going to move to approve the comprehensive plan future land small-scale map amendment from the commercial high-intensity land use category to high-density residential land use category on the 32.55 acre portion of the overall 39 acre property as illustrated in the materials. And this encompasses the findings of the comprehensive plan future land use small-scale map amendment is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan.
Second.
Do I have a second?
I did, second. And I would
Excellent.
ask, why doesn't council required to make those complicated motions?
We're working on it.
Excellent. Now, you got that one compliment, you know, we got to keep with the positives, okay? I have a second. Do I have any further discussion? Let's call for a roll call vote, please, clerk.
Vice Chairman Richardson?
Yes.
Secretary Grant?
Yes.
Member Perez?
Yes.
Member Anton?
Yes.
Chairwoman Spidel?
Yes. No negative vote, therefore no report to council concerning the negative. Is that correct? We got it?
We're still looking for one more motion on the rezoning.
That's the approval of the regional commercial
Yes, ma'am.
zoning district from planned. Is there anyone here representing Chick-fil-A? I'm sorry, I get a little giddy at this moment. Nobody? It depends on my vote. How about yours, Mr. Richardson? Okay, asking for a motion to approve the rezoning from regional commercial zoning district to planned development, zoning district with master plan conditions on 32.55 acre portion of the 39.28 acre property. This item is quasi-judicial. Okay. Do I have a motion?
Take another stab. I'm on a roll here.
Yeah.
So move to approve the rezoning from the regional commercial zoning district to the planned development zoning district with the master plan and conditions on the 32.55 acre portion of the overall 39 acre property as described in the rezoning ordinance. The conditions of approval shall include a maximum of 488 residential units, a 50-foot maximum building height, and architectural control statement, a 50-foot buffer, and building setback from the adjacent single-family residential subdivision up to 2 shared driveways to be shared with the adjacent commercial zoning open space, recreational amenities, multi-use path, and bicycle shelter, with the additional conditions of no burning of vegetation during the construction process, and any buildings that are within the 75 feet setback shall be no more than 35 feet in height. This is in conjunction with the findings that the rezoning is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and land development regulations, including PD and rezoning criteria described in section 33.8 and 34-40 of the code, and the master plan is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, land development regulations, and master plan requirements described in chapter 34, article 2, division 3 of the code.
Whoever is
I'll second
taking
that.
Yeah, whoever is taking down this textbook thing, I hope you've got complete description on that. Clerk, we want a rewrite on that. Make sure every single. Yeah, well, she may be able to, she may not, but that's textbook. Thank you very much. Second by Member Richardson, is that correct?
Yeah.
Roll call vote, please, clerk.
Secretary Grant?
Yes.
Member Perez?
Yeah.
Member Aton?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Richardson?
Yes.
Chairwoman Spidel?
Yes. Congratulations on an excellent presentation, ladies and gentlemen, and all residents present.
And we have a lot more fun than city council.
Yeah, but you'll have to see them too, okay? Can we have about a 2-minute time for people to exit the room? And give us, yeah. Thank you. Go to the Chick-fil-A hearing. Thank you. No, Chick-fil-A. Zaxby's is, I think they're on their way out. They're not? Oh, no. Thank you. Thank you. I should also compliment, yes, yes. And Brad, I'd like to compliment staff for the amount of information that you had available too. And I thought that was just, that was, we expected to be here, when we got the agenda last week, we expected to be here until about 10:45. Food was, for Thursday, and food was ordered for us, and here we are, we're finished.
You supply the food.
I do have a question to council. We have item number H, the election of officers. We were going to table that or postpone it.
I have.
What do you want to do
I had
with
a
it?
brief discussion with the chair about the item number H, letter H. The election of officers is on your agenda for tonight. You can dispose of that or you can table it. It's up to you all to decide what to do with that item, knowing that you do have a member missing and you may or may not have another member joining your ranks at the next council meeting on February 14th. It's up to you to decide what to do with this item tonight.
Thank you for the clarification. What's the pleasure of the commissioners, please? Member Richardson?
Oh, my light is on. I didn't mean for it to be.
Well,
But
your pleasure is asked for.
since it's not yet 9 o'clock, I say we go ahead if the rest of the commission agrees.
No, you got everybody, you got to vote for everybody, and you're missing a member. So I'm going to debate you there. You want to do that? Maybe we should have a roll call vote then. Okay.
I guess if none of the team members are going to potentially be
No. Well, it's true. Let's do. Stan's not here for a point of order, so I'm gonna do it.
It's being recorded.
Yeah, that's okay. Everyone say aye who wants to go ahead with the election of, excuse me, of officers this evening.
Aye.
Say nay. I guess we're going to go ahead. Okay, we're going to go to page 2, item number 9, H as in hilarious. Remembering that. Let's look at section 1, chairman, and that be me for 1 year. Do we combine both, council, do we combine both of these, please?
No, do one position at a time.
Okay.
You will first open it up to nominations for the position of chairwoman or chair.
Chairperson.
And dispose of that office and then move on to vice chair after the chair has been designated.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to pass the gavel to my vice chair for a nomination. Can I do that?
No.
I can not
Because
allowed
I'm
to
going to
do that?
nominate you for chairperson.
And I'm going to second.
Well, let's just vote then, for heaven's sake. And pass the cheese and crackers again. Okay? Is there any discussion of Ms. Jane Spidell remaining as, having another term as chairperson, despite all my faults and goofballs?
Do we need roll call?
We need a roll call, yeah.
Other nominations.
Are there any other nominations? You all don't want to do this? Oh, that was stipulation. Okay, we got 7 minutes. Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Secretary Grant,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Richardson,
Yes.
Member Perez,
Yes.
Member Aton,
Yes.
Chairwoman Spidell.
I guess I'll vote for myself. I remember Woody was nominated. He didn't even vote for himself once, so I think I'll vote for myself. Thank you for the faith of the commissioners, and thank you for your patience in dealing with me every couple of weeks. So I appreciate it. I would like to pass the gavel to the vice chair. Well, no, I've already done that, right? No. I can't nominate anybody.
Unless you pass the gavel.
Okay, so I'm passing the gavel to my vice chair.
Okay. Are there any nominations for vice chairman?
Yes, I nominate my buddy, who keeps me straight every meeting, Mr. Richardson.
I thought you were talking about somebody else. Are there any other nominations? Mr. Grant,
Well, I was gonna second.
Oh, yeah, we have
any other nominations? Roll call, please.
Member Eton,
Yes.
Secretary Grant,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Richardson,
I guess.
Member Perez,
Yes.
Chairwoman Spidel.
Definitely, yes.
And I'll pass the gavel back to the chairperson.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay. Who else tonight? That's it.
You have a secretary position.
Okay. I have a secretary position and we don't take any money, so we don't have a treasurer. Is that it? Just, and the secretary? That's
The
it?
secretary is currently Member Grant.
Okay, okay. So I'd like nominations for the secretary's position, please.
Yeah, I would nominate Mr. Grant.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any additional nominations? Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chairman Richardson,
Yes.
Member Perez.
Yes.
Member Eton.
Yes.
Member Secretary Grant,
Reckon so.
Chairwoman Spidel.
Definitely, thank you. This is a good group.
We're having more fun than we anticipated.
Than we anticipated. It was that cheese that Brad ordered for us, okay?
They're gonna cut out salary. We're having too much fun.
Oh, now we're going into beverages, okay. Petitions and requests from the public present. I always forget this. Officer Taylor. Do- Mhm. City staff, would you like to say something?
Just a couple of things. You're probably aware of this already, that we have a community workshop on the 21st with our consultant about the comprehensive plan, and they're going to do an interactive activity with the community as well. So it should be a good event. It's going to be at the Senior Center on February 21st, that Tuesday evening at 6 p.m.
How does that differ from this past Saturday's?
Different. This is about growth management. This is about the comprehensive plan specifically. What was conducted this past Saturday was City Council's community conversation to help guide them with this year's budget. Although a lot of the comments and questions were long-range planning related.
Yes, they were.
So it's what I heard that morning is very related to what we're going to be addressing on the 21st.
Okay. And I compliment again staff and especially council for people being present and for how well organized it was.
It was well attended.
Yeah, it was very, I would say almost 200 people. Yeah, yeah. Plus the baby. City attorney.
I have no report, thank you.
Any members, please? Member Richardson.
Yeah, this is kind of a personal thing, but I don't think some of you are aware that my mom is 88. She watches every single one of these, but she's not watching tonight because she fell 2 weeks ago, hit her head on the patio, and it was 5 hours before anybody could hear her yelling. But 2 Titusville police officers managed to go through a window, and the fire department showed up, and they finally got me up, and I went around to her condo, and this was at between 10:30 and 11 at night. She was air flighted from Parrish to RMC in a trauma unit, and she had surgery on that Wednesday. She's now at Solaris in Merritt Island, and they're superb. They're right behind Target in Merritt Island. And I found out today that she'll be discharged Monday. So she will be watching this the next time.
And she welcomes vegan cookies and brownies. You can deliver. That's right. Oh, yeah, we have, you can back, can't you rewind what we've done? That's frightening. Frightening. Let me, do any other members have anything else to say this evening? Nope. Oh, wow. I want to thank you for the faith that you've shown in me, and I don't know whether it's your good or positive or negative knowledge. Hopefully, we will be fully staffed, please, and alternatives will be present at our next meeting, which, according to our color-coded calendar, will be the 22nd of February. Is that correct? Wow.
9:00.
I'm telling you, I'm serious. This is because of those crackers. And I did not think this was going to happen. Okay.
Brie cheese, I think. It's-
The brie, yeah, okay. Thank you so much. This is the adjournment or of the planning and zoning for February 8th. Thank you, council. Thank you, clerk. Excellent job.